With so many people being caught up in the media and the drama that's came with Shedeur Sanders, I think people are failing to realize just how insane the fall was. There have been numerous social media clips posted regarding Sanders, speculation as to why he fell so far, and old tweets and clips resurfacing that have aged terribly. But the part that people are forgetting about with the fall of Shedeur Sanders is the fall itself. This was genuinely the most unprecedented draft fall in the history of the NFL. This doesn't mean that Shedeur Sanders is some elite quarterback prospect, but he was a consensus top 50 player in this draft. And when a quarterback has a second round grade on him, he usually ends up going in the first round. That's just how NFL teams draft quarterbacks nowadays. But instead, Shedeur Sanders, who just a few months ago was mocked by many to go number 1 overall, is now a 5th round draft choice to a team that people potentially thought would pick him in the top 5. Everyone's been talking about potential reasons why Shedeur fell so far in this draft. And I think most of these reasons are too tied up with the media and the drama. Some people have blamed his father, Deion Sanders, and there have been things Deion has done that certainly haven't helped Shedeur, but it can't be the sole reason for this magnitude of a fall. Some people have been pointing to leadership concerns and just overall concerns that come with the attention that this guy receives and how he's been handling it. But to be talented enough to be a first round pick, have no major injuries in your collegiate career, and go outside of the top 100 is unbelievable. A part of me thinks that these teams know something that the general public doesn't know regarding Sanders, even outside of apparently performing poorly in interviews. But at the same time, maybe it is just as simple as NFL teams not believing in him to be a starting caliber quarterback. We've heard some not so great things about Sanders since the beginning of the draft process, but the average fan, as well as draft experts, were able to overlook most of these non-football related concerns and value the talent over everything else. Usually, NFL teams are like this too. The crazy thing about this is, the Browns are probably the best example of a team that overlooks off-the-field concerns. This is the same team that gave Deshaun Watson $300 million just a few years ago. And the off-the-field concerns with Shedeur Sanders, in comparison to Watson, are nowhere close. And yes, Sanders did poetically end up going to the Browns in the 5th round, and one of those players drafted ahead of Sanders was a quarterback. So honestly, even the team that drafts Sanders doesn't look like they believe in him either. But going back to the whole off-the-field thing, even looking at this year's draft, look at guys like Mike Green, James Pierce Jr., or Luther Burden. All 3 are first-round talents, but had some off-the-field concerns going into the draft. Even though none of them went as high as their potential talent could have landed them, they were all top 60 picks in the draft. So based on what I've gathered so far, this really makes no sense at all. Jackson Dart and Jalen Milroe going ahead of Sanders was already crazy, but Tyler Shough and Dylan Gabriel going ahead of Sanders, to me, was the craziest thing I've seen in the draft in a while. The other side of the coin is the reports that have been coming out that the problem with Sanders is the talent itself. And don't get me wrong, this guy is nowhere near the most talented prospect we've seen at this position, and he isn't even the best quarterback in his own class. But Sanders was regarded as the most pro-ready and most accurate quarterback in this class, and his only real knock was not having a crazy amount of upside due to having an average arm. But it's also been a consensus that the upside of 5'11" Dylan Gabriel and 25-year-old Tyler Shough isn't very high either. So once again, them being picked above Sanders is even more insane than some people already think. So if talent is really the problem, I think we need a bit of an explanation from the teams. But my best explanation for this comes back to the narrative that he performed poorly at interviews. If this was a potential concern with the player that played any other position other than quarterback, I think it wouldn't have hurt their draft stock much at all. But for a quarterback, teams want leaders. Teams want players that a team would rally behind. And from the looks of it, not one NFL team, not one team in the league thought that Shedeur Sanders was a good enough leader to be a high-level quarterback. Any other position, and teams would select the more talented guy over those who are looked up in the locker room 9 times out of 10. But at quarterback, the whole narrative changes. That of course applies to the whole leadership thing, and it also applies to the fact that teams are looking for high upside prospects and are potentially going to take projects over somebody who has an average arm. And unfortunately, in this year's class, Shedeur Sanders was a victim of this narrative and was on the short end of the stick when it came to preferences that NFL teams have. I'm rooting for Sanders in the NFL, and I know some of you guys aren't. And obviously, some of, if not most of the reasons for his fall can be blamed on him. But with the circumstance he was in, going 5th round was absolutely unprecedented. And I don't know if we've ever seen or will ever see anything like this again. Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comment section. If you enjoyed, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Let me know where you think Shedeur Sanders should have went in the draft and how you think his career is going to pan out. But that's going to do it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one.